I am honored to host my second CHC Safety and Quality Summit, and this, as Duncan mentioned, is the 12th consecutive year CHC has welcomed the global aviation industry to Vancouver for the sole purpose of advancing safety for our employees, our customers, and partners. I am humbled by the fact that despite the current economic cost environment, close to 600 participants from more than 24 countries are here today, and more than 36 companies have stepped forward to sponsor this event. We are grateful to every single one of these sponsors, and we'd like to recognize in particular our platinum sponsors: Willis Towers Watson, Heli One, Swiss Re Corporate Solutions, Schlosser, Talbot Validus Group, Sikorsky, and Finmeccanica. As business operators, partners, suppliers, and regulators, we are in the midst of budget exercises, capital expenditure reviews, and cost-benefit analysis. And those of you who are part of the oil and gas supply chain will surely have to reimagine ourselves in the months ahead. But as aviation service providers, we are focused on safety above all else. And that focus often has significant cost. Some may see a tension in justifying that cost at a time where elsewhere in our business, some very tough decisions are being made. We as leaders in our respective industries need to overcome that tension. The issue is not whether to retreat from our goal of constant safety improvement. The issue is how we and the industry continue to elevate safety. Continuing investment in and a keen focus on safety must always be the top priority, in good times or bad. In fact, there is a strong argument to support the premise that workplace accidents and injuries actually drop during downturns, only to surge during recovery. The practices and procedures in place before a downturn effectively shelter the business. But lack of investment during the downturn then manifests itself in events when, from a business perspective, things are recovering and the business is expanding once more into a growing market, but on foundations that are not as strong. For perspective, let's look back a generation to a time when the North Sea offshore industry was booming. July 6, 1988, the Piper Alpha platform 120 miles northeast of Aberdeen exploded and burned, killing 167 platform personnel. This was the deadliest offshore accident in the history of the industry. Maintenance on a pump's pressure safety valve was left unfinished and uncommunicated at the end of shift change. Workers on the next shift started the pump, triggering a high-pressure leak from the missing valve. Once the leaking gas ignited, the Piper Alpha's automatic deluge system never activated. It had been turned off. Two nearby processing platforms with subsea pipelines to the Piper Alpha kept pumping oil and gas to the doomed platform after it started burning, fueling flames more than 100 meters high, because personnel did not believe they had the authority to cease operations, even though they could clearly see the Piper Alpha platform was burning. The investigation identified a host of failures that caused or contributed to the Piper Alpha disaster: a deficient risk assessment of the pressure valve maintenance, inadequate training in emergency response procedures, a breakdown in the chain of command, a shift change without adequate communication among workers, unsafe platform design, including limited access to lifeboats and rescue helicopters, and a relaxed approach to communication, reporting, and accident prevention. It could be argued that the scene was set in the preceding 2 years when oil prices were at their lowest in a long time and had remained that way prior to picking up just 6 months before the event. Though North Sea helicopter service operators actually annually transport 1 million workers to and from some of the most hostile environments on the planet, our industry safety profile has steadily improved since 1988. However, the fact that 38 North Sea offshore workers and flight crew died in fatal helicopter accidents over the past 40 years should temper any satisfaction we might feel about our industry safety record. The most recent of those fatalities in the North Sea occurred in 2013 in an accident involving one of my company's aircraft. The 4 workers who died when our aircraft went into the water on approach to Sombra will forever be a poignant reminder that we should never lessen our focus on safety, regardless of the progress we've made or the economic conditions in which we operate. If the seeds for the Piper Alpha disaster were sown not days or weeks or even months before the accident, but during the challenging period 2 years prior, the lesson is clear. We must be doubly committed to a strong collective safety management system during trying times if we want to be prepared for success when the downturn ends. Or to put it more bluntly, in the words of an American economist, Paul Romer, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Let's be reasonable, you might say. If you are a small operator or facing investor mandates to cut your way to renewed prosperity, the ideals of an effective safety management system and strong safety culture may seem out of reach in the current industry economy. You might be inclined to point out that just over a year ago at last year's summit, those of us connected to the oil and gas industry were adjusting to the prospect of $60 a barrel Brent and its impact on offshore exploration. Those, my friends, were the good old days. With the price of oil having dipped at one point in February to a 12-year low, almost half the price discussed just 12 months ago. The oil and gas market is going through its most challenging market in the last 15 years. Nearly a third of the offshore rigs are stacked or idle. Like many of you, I am painfully aware that these are not good times. But I am absolutely convinced that this is the right time to go back to basics in our respective safety cultures. That is the theme of this year's summit, reflecting the environment in which we operate. It builds on the themes and lessons learned at previous summits, specifically the vast potential of collaboration and innovation by the industry for the industry. Collaboration across competitive, organizational, and geographic boundaries is essentially a no-cost proposition with a significant return on investment. And while innovation may entail targeted upfront investment, sharing that investment through collaboration and best practice communication becomes a low-cost, high-return endeavor. Achieving cost savings while at the same time enhancing safety is a win-win. It's an opportunity we cannot and must not pass up. Consider a few examples of safety enhancement born of crises or economic necessity. Examples from the broad aviation industry that demonstrate how close collaboration and strategic innovation initiated and sustained during challenging times can pay significant dividends in safety, quality, and efficiency. 6 years ago, huge ash clouds from an erupting Icelandic volcano essentially shut down European airspace for a week because it was not safe to fly. Volcanic ash can effectively choke engines and cause significant damage to components that is not always immediately visible. EasyJet is one of Europe's leading low-cost airlines. EasyJet carries 60 million passengers a year and over 600 routes in more than 30 countries. Like all of us in this room, EasyJet is understandably proud of its safety record and strives to keep aircraft in the air, on time, and safe for customers. Because of the 2010 volcanic ash safety threat, EasyJet canceled more than 7,000 flights and lost upwards of $55 million. In short order, the company was collaborating with Airbus in Akarnika on an innovative solution. You see, volcanic ash clouds from Iceland, which has 35 active volcanoes, are not black swans. Major sustained eruptions in Iceland happened on an average every 5 years, and at any time, and occasionally for prolonged periods, they can pose a threat to aviation in Europe. Indeed, they came tantalizingly close to returning to cause disruption in European airspace in 2014. And we've seen eruptions elsewhere throughout the world, even as recently as last week in Alaska. In response to this recurring threat, EasyJet and its partners developed and successfully tested an airborne volcanic object imaging detector, also known as AVOID, that uses infrared cameras to spot volcanic ash up to 62 miles away. AVOID gives pilots a 7 to 10 minute warning period when volcanic ash is a threat, enabling them to safely change routes, keep planes in the air, and add another layer of protection to passengers and crew. Thanks to innovation achieved through collaboration, EasyJet developed a means of maintaining safety and avoiding significant financial pain. And another effect born of the desire to reduce costs and enhance safety, EasyJet is pioneering the use of automated drones to check its fleets for everything from evidence of lightning strikes to normal maintenance requirements. Using the drones mean aircraft inspections for signs of lightning strikes that normally take a day or more can now be done in a couple of hours with greater accuracy and without the inherent risk of maintenance engineers working at heights. The drone program is a cooperative effort among EasyJet and governmental and commercial partners and is another example of a safety enhancement and cost saver achieved through innovation and collaboration. For one more example of just how fundamental collaboration and innovation are to the aviation industry's safety profile, let's look beyond our earthly bounds to a situation most of us in our industry will never face unless oil is discovered on Mars, which we can always hope for new markets. While offshore helicopter transport means operating in the most forbidding environments on Earth, I think we'd all agree that outer space presents an even greater challenge. The inherent safety issues and costs involved in putting people and equipment into space demand innovation of the highest order. NASA has blasted a 3D printer to the International Space Station crew. It was the first manufacturing device sent into space to build spare parts and tools without the costs and risk of putting a resupply rocket into space. In the time it takes to send an email, a digital design and specification file can be sent to the space station where the 3D printer can produce the desired tool or part in a matter of hours. Developed, tested, and certified to exacting standards and delivered through a public-private collaboration, the 3D space printer program presents significant safety and cost savings possibilities that will become even more important as space exploration extends even farther from Earth. I cite this example not as a direct solution for our industry, but as an example of strategic innovation through cooperation and collaboration that can put huge dividends in safety and cost avoidance in even the most challenging aviation environments. Ongoing collaboration to further enhance safety is a fundamental obligation for everyone in this room. At CHC, it is a sacred duty, reinforced by the 2013 accident we experienced off Sombra that I mentioned earlier in this talk. Our shared obligation is to assure the best possible legacy from what was a tragic event. As many of you know, just last month, the UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch published its final report on the Sombra accident. At CHC, in close collaboration with industry stakeholders, we began working immediately after the accident to further improve the safety of our operations. One of the first things we did to address our accident and others in the North Sea, as well as accidents and near misses that we, along with other major operators, have seen elsewhere in the industry was to work with those other main players in the industry to form the Joint Operators Review Working Group. CHC, Avincis, now Babcock, Bristow, along with AgustaWestland, Sikorsky, Bell, and Airbus, came together more closely than ever before with a shared commitment to identify where we could further enhance our operations to achieve sustained gains around the world in rotary wing flight safety. The historic collaboration evolved into the first global offshore helicopter association, Heli-Offshore, an organization that saw collaboration with PHI and ERA, and then with key players like Caverton and Westar, as well as over 25 other operator members. The shared focus of all Heli-Offshore members is safety through collaboration that makes a difference to the front line where safety is delivered every day. This groundbreaking industry collaboration has delivered several safety enhancements for passengers and crew, including enhanced crew monitoring procedures, further standardization of automation and techniques used on approach, training focused on detecting and avoiding loss of airspeed, industry-wide deployment of improved emergency breathing systems, development and implementation of flight crew operating manuals, and Heli-Offshore global eye tracking research. The eye tracking research is a collaborative effort Heli-Offshore launched in January in Aberdeen to further enhance pilot performance in the cockpit. The study is using state-of-the-art techniques to understand how pilots monitor cockpit instruments. In the study, pilots enter a simulator and put on eye tracking devices. The glasses are connected to a system that combines a camera with an infrared light source. The system illuminates the eye with bursts of non-harmful infrared light. Areas of the eye that reflect different light levels are photographed and then analyzed to reveal which instruments are monitored during specific periods of flight. Study results will be used to improve training and procedures and give feedback to the OEMs about the design of automation in cockpits. We will all benefit from this important research, made possibly only through collaboration and a shared cost approach. Airbus Helicopters UK is donating time and their H225 simulator for the research, and dozens of pilots from CHC, Babcock, and Bristow have participated in the study. Even as we face the worst economic environment in our industry in 30 years, there are abundant no-cost, low-cost, and shared cost opportunities to enhance safety that are embedded in core values inherent in our collective approach to and implementation of comprehensive integrative safety management systems. At CHC, that purpose is to make sure that the people we employ, work with, and serve every day come home safely. I'd like to give you a couple of examples of how we are gaining cost efficiencies and enhancing safety through focused and strategic innovation and collaboration. By fully leveraging our investment in strategic transformative technologies, we've been able to improve training, monitoring, and performance at little or no additional cost. By reducing paperwork and administration in the cockpit through our electronic flight bag, safety is greatly enhanced by letting pilots be much more eyes out of the cockpit rather than heads down during flight and while on the ground. This is especially important during departure and landing when workload is higher and the proximity of a structure or personnel on the helideck is greater. Leveraging our flight data monitoring capabilities is another good example. Every modern aircraft type we fly in our oil and gas operation delivers data into our FDM program, the scope of which is certainly one of the largest in the commercial rotary wing industry. Our flight operations managers conduct ever more detailed reviews of our FDM findings. Those results are integrated into training and form improvements into our operating procedures. Lessons from FDM are also used to alter our line-orientated flight training, or LOFT. Our goal is to have FDM-supported desired behaviors like a consistently stable approach. We are also working to explore how FDM can be used to monitor the effective use of automation. Our drive to embed FDM into the training department's quarterly review cycle, working with crew workforce representatives, is helping to establish the program as a powerful and invaluable feedback tool. While our FDM programs look at the more mechanical elements of how the flight was performed, Line Operations Safety Audits, or LOSA, look at how our crews react to threats and errors individually and collectively. They are an important way to help develop countermeasures to operational errors. LOSA is a structured program of observation of frontline activities built around the threat and error management concept. LOSA uses trained observers to collect data about pilot behavior in the cockpit during normal flights, enabling development of strategies for managing potential in-flight threats and errors. I am delighted to welcome HNZ and the LOSA Collaborative to the summit, and look forward to hearing the details of their work, which has laid strong foundations for others, including CHC, Bristow, and Babcock, as we develop our own LOSA programs this year. Joint LOSA observation training makes good sense on every level, and utilizing the templates and reporting developments by one operator saves time, effort, and ultimately money in avoiding the reinvention of the wheel. Over the next couple of days, we will have the opportunity to learn from subject matter experts and each other how to get back to basics through investment in innovation to drive continuous safety improvement and collaboration to advance our industry's strong safety legacy. My hope is that you will leave this summit with an appreciation that process-oriented employee risk management assessment, continuous closed-loop feedback on hazards, incidents, and responses, and a sustained emphasis on continuous safety improvement and efficiency can all be achieved at little or no extra cost. But we will also hear from experts on how to quantify the safety benefits of investing in new technology and systems even when economic times are hard, to ensure that the expansion that we all hope will not be too far down the line will occur on a solid foundation of commitment to safety, both in principle and in practice. I hope you leave Vancouver appreciating the fact that focusing on safety now will be essential to being successful when the downturn ends. I hope you all join me in the belief that we should never compromise on safety or compliance in the pursuit of short-term savings. Safety is not an operating expense. It makes good business sense. Safety is a moral and a professional imperative. Thank you for your time, your attention, and for partnering with us in this important effort.